but I'd lost 18 months versus David Beckham, versus Paul Scholes, versus Nicky Butt, versus Phil Neville, etc. The others. In that final year I was at United, I'd experienced everything, you know, from man marking Ryan Giggs or Andrei Kanchelskis as a fullback, and he called me a spade. You can have the spade, he said to the captain of the one team. And a couple of lads came over to me and said, Flash, that's not right, that. It was my first incident of racism that I felt from a coach.
Flash, welcome to the podcast. So my first question, Rich, is how did it begin? Growing up in Birmingham, how did it start for you in terms of your footballing career?
Yeah, so as the years go by, I guess I was fortunate that the school I played for was a very small inner city school, but we were the best in Birmingham, or one of the best in Birmingham most years. So whether it was 5-a-side or 11-a-side, Lee Bank was way up there, and we had a reputation for producing players that went on to have trials and become professionals. As the years went by and I became a secondary school student, then my PE teacher there, Mr. Alan Cross, who's still a friend now to me, he then was, again, coaching different skills into me for different sports, but was sort of instrumental in running our district team. So from schools football to Sunday League football, and then district was like the area that we lived in, so we were sort of central Birmingham. And I got recruited at the age of 13 by Manchester United. Aston Villa and Birmingham City also wanted me to go along and train on a Tuesday and Thursday night, but it was Manchester United that I sort of, on a bigger scale, was recruited by their chief scout. He wasn't the chief scout at the time, but Jeff Watson went on to become the chief scout at Manchester United for many years, and so I've got a nice sort of little. I was recruited by to be the next chief scout in the great days of Manchester United as well. So we're looking at the 90s and the millennium years where he was the chief scout. So yeah, going up to Manchester and having trials, or playing, just having weeks of football in school holidays, as well as training with Aston Villa and Birmingham City sort of on an evening in Birmingham on a Tuesday or a Thursday evening. And I kept myself open. I didn't want to sign for a team. Again, I was a shy lad. I just couldn't foresee myself being a footballer, but I wanted to be an accountant. Essentially, that's where the money is. I was into business and accountancy because my big brother was at college at that time, and that's all the books I used to see that he used to be studying. So I sort of had one eye on not a football career, which is weird because I wasn't overawed by being recruited by professional teams. When the football stuff came in, I think my personality, my character, although I was going out to all these places, I was a very shy lad. When Tottenham and Liverpool and Arsenal came knocking on the door, I said no, don't want to go. Really, I just didn't want to socialise and go and meet new people. Yeah. Essentially, it was quite weird. I wasn't an outgoing sort of extrovert kind of young lad. Yeah. I was happy with my Brummie people, and I was like, Liverpool, Arsenal, Forest, Tottenham. Nah, not interested. Not interested in you lot. You lot carry on. But Man United, Aston Villa, Birmingham. Yeah. I'll keep an eye open for you. So I sort of refused to sort of sign schoolboy forms. And many people might know this, but within the schoolboy recruitment process, a lot of pressure is put on lads to sign, and there's no promise and guarantee at the end of it. And I was seeing friends of mine being recruited from Birmingham City, and they were being really pushy. And there was a change to the structure of Sunday League football, where Birmingham City and a few other teams were actually stopping lads playing for their Sunday League team. At the age of 14, you were signing schoolboy forms, and that prevented you from playing for your Sunday League, and they developed their own leagues. So I didn't want that. I wanted to play for my Sunday League team, I wanted to play for my school team, I wanted to play in the school playground with my mates and see where it went. And I suppose at the age of 14, once I popped up to Manchester United, 13, 14 for the first time, I had a week in accommodation, and the best of the Welsh, the Irish, the English, we were there. And Sir Alex Ferguson sat myself and an ex-player called David Johnson, father of Brennan Johnson, who's now at Forest, doing great things. He sat us both down, age 13, in his room, and he told us about Ryan Wilson to be Giggs. and all the young players that were, they said this guy Lee Sharp was obviously a fellow sort of West Midlander and Brummie, and he said this could be great for you guys. What we see for you is signing 2-year schoolboy, 2-year apprenticeship, 2-year pro. So he was off, basically on the table then was a 6-year contract with Manchester United from the age of 13, of which I didn't sign.
For what reason?
Again, non-committal. I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. I thought at the age of 16 I might go to college. I wanted to make my own mind up. I've always been quite independent and wanted to make my own decision. So even though a lot of lads, the 2 best Welsh lads in the country at the time, the captain of Wales, like Matt Monaghan, Gary Twynham, they signed their 6-year contracts. I was happy going up in the school holidays, whether it was Easter, October half term, 6 weeks school holidays, and picking my week there and having a week at Villa. Very good coach called Dave Richardson, who was at the Villa. Once Birmingham City put the pressure on, I said goodbye to them. Not because, again, my mum was in the football system, so my mum used to sort of drive all inner city schools, my school, my secondary school, my primary school. We used to drive all the teams around, so netball, football, hockey. So my mum was right on it. My dad's a cricket man, so he wasn't involved in that sort, but my mum was with me all the time. He took me to West Midlands trials, took me to England schoolboy trials. I said no to England schoolboys at the age of 14. I didn't want to leave home and go to Lillishall for my last 2 years of school. I wanted to stay with my school friends. So you're sort of painting the picture here that I basically had lots of offers from all the best clubs in the land. England wanted me to go and live in Lillishall, the National School of Excellence. Now it's obviously St George's Park, but that was the equivalent back then. And you go and go to a school in Telford. I was like, no. And I refused to go to the last trial. They said, Rich, just come to the last trial. You're in. Well, I don't want to be in. So I turned England down at that point. But you might say I was a bit crazy doing all these things. But I was happy at United, just not on a contract. Eventually I did sign a schoolboy contract at the age of 15 and with Man United. And I said bye to Villa, with my home club. So
just on that, so anyone listening will probably think, what an opportunity to go and represent England, all these football clubs that you selected. Do you ever look back and think, what if you ever process that, or are you very much, I've made that decision and kind of that's the book's closed? Do you ever look back and think, well,
I've looked back down the years. I look back at the age of 18 because there were lads who came from England, from Lillishall, National School of Excellence, that were at Man United, a lad called Richard Irving. Eventually, only so many actually made it as professionals. Yeah. And back in my day, there was a player called John Ebrell. I think he ended up at Everton, and he did play first team. Richard Irving came with this huge reputation at the age of 16 from Lillishall, had his 4-year contract or something there, sort of signed, sealed and ready. He ended up at Forest and then out of the game probably in mid-20s. So there was no guarantee that I would have gone to Lillishall and become a superstar. Yeah. And I've looked back and I thought, well, maybe I've missed out on experience there. But I had the great experience of being at Man United. So I couldn't really look back and think, could I have changed seeing Eric Cantona walk in for his medical that day that he came to sign? I didn't even know who he was. But these experiences, Paul Ince gave me an England shirt, after his I think it was after he became the first black captain of England in 1993 in the summer tour of the USA. So there was different experiences that I can weigh up, decision making. Should I have stayed at home and gone to Aston Villa? Yeah, maybe I wouldn't have had my injury that I picked up at United. But no, I think every time I look back, I think this wouldn't have happened if I'd have not done that. There's too many good things that happened in a short career as a pro. Injury was obviously part of my reason for retiring, but a lot of the good things, I experienced so many good things and met so many people anyway.
So talk to me about the process of actually committing to Manchester United then. So you were ifing and butting. You mentioned home life was very important to you growing up. Yeah. And you mentioned your mother as well, who was very much involved in football. So when did the time come where you thought, well, actually I need to commit to Man United and the opportunity that they're offering? Well,
United weren't persistent. My scout Jeff Watson was brilliant. From the first time that he drove myself and David Johnson up to Manchester for training to meet Sir Alex, or Alex as he was then. there was no pushiness from United. There wasn't like this. Back in 90s football, the lads who were playing for England or went to the England trials were being recruited by Tottenham and Nottingham Forest. Most of those lads never made it. There were lads being given houses to please relocate from where you are. So whether it was Birmingham or somewhere in the Midlands, a lot of the players I knew were from the Midlands. Oh yeah, we'll buy a house for your mum and dad to move into. We'll find your dad a job. These offers were out there. Man United never did that. Sir Alex never did that. He just said, if you're good enough, you'll be in the team at 18. And he used Ryan Giggs, Ryan Wilson, Lee Sharp as those examples, which I could relate to. But I was seeing all this pressure. Like I said, Birmingham City and then Nottingham Forest were offering people money. United gave me a pair of shin pads and a pair of boots. Yeah. They didn't like lord over players in Sir Alex's reign. They treated young lads to say, you'll get what you deserve when you deserve it. If you achieve the things that you want to achieve and you do the right things, the money, the trappings, they'll come to you. So Man United had this distinct philosophy, the way of doing things with schoolboy footballers that the other clubs were a little bit more sort of superficial, and I saw through that.
Do you think, so I get the sense that the culture at Man United is very grounded in that sense of giving you opportunity, but you're here to work hard in terms of, instead of maybe, you mentioned the rewards financially and kind of other external things that might have been on offer to you. I get the sense that maybe that was the reason why you relocated. Did you relocate to Manchester?
Yeah, at 16.
Because
so
of that?
Moved.
And was that opportunity something that kind of motivated you during that process to perform at a good level?
It was, although again things were great at Villa too, and they weren't pushy. I think that Manchester United made me feel welcome. I enjoyed being up in Manchester. The things just seemed right there. They had the likes of Nobby Stiles, Brian Kidd, Eric Harrison, and Alex. Yeah, they seemed to have these people who were really nice, and they were just normal. They didn't put out a red carpet for you. They just they laid it out and said, you got to work hard. You're going to become one of the YTS trainees here. But like I said, if you are good enough, you'll be like Ryan Giggs. We'll put you in the team. And when I signed my schoolboy form, I think I was 15. It was Ryan Giggs' home debut. He was still at Wilson at the time. So I have sort of another great memory when I signed. I saw this match. I think they played Everton at home, and I was up there with my mum and my brother, and again, signed, sealed, shaking of hands. Everything was just family orientated, and again, touch upon that most 99.9 ex-pros at Man United would say how Sir Alex was, knew what my mum and dad did for a living, knew how many brothers or sisters I had, and it was that whole knowledge, that deep detail that Sir Alex had with his approach to recruiting players. Wanted to know about the background, where you were from, whether you were rich, poor, or in the middle, sort of thing. He sort of understood stuff. So yeah, it was just the right place to be for me, even if it didn't turn out to be obviously successful.
So talk to me about the process at Man United then. So you've moved from the West Midlands, Birmingham to Manchester. You've relocated. You've got offered your scholarship. Talk to me about that experience. Was there any players that you played with that you keep in touch with now? Is there anyone that was outstanding when you played? Maybe opponents as well. Can you kind of just give an insight into that?
Some of the first memories really were still as a schoolboy. So once I'd signed as a schoolboy, I then on random Saturday mornings was in a car driving up to Salford to play either at the Cliff or at Littleton Road playing fields for the B team. The youth team would have the A and the B, and usually you'd have like first year YTSs and your second year pros, the older ones. So same as college, year one at college, year two at college. So you had a dressing room shared by 30 odd players, and you'd be these A and B teams playing each week. And I went up this one Saturday. Nobby Stiles was the coach, the manager of the B team. So I went up, didn't know many people who were going to be there, put into centre midfield, and there was a player who was really annoyed by that called David Beckham, because he wanted to be a centre midfield player And at that age, he was, I think I might be 15, he was maybe 16, and he was shunted out to right midfield. Now we know what's happened since. That was my fault, because I went up, he was really pissed off with me. He didn't want to be out there on the right. Every time I put a pass to him that was not within 5 yards of him getting it and he had to reach for it, he'd look at me annoyingly, because he knew he could probably do better. So Beckham was there. A young lad on the subs bench was called Paul Scholes. So from the beginning, from my first sort of, professional matches, out of schoolboy, or I was still a schoolboy, so they were saying, bring this lad Flash up because he's really good, give him a taste of what he's going to be experiencing when he moves here. So I experienced that from day dot, and I only went up a couple of times, but I was like, whoa, this is hard, this is difficult, this is tougher than schoolboy football, West Midlands county football, this is tougher than my district, my Sunday league. The fitness was a totally different kettle of fish. So that's one memory that stands out. And then when you move up, who should be in the house that I move into? David Beckham. So the digs, as we called it, there was a family that lived there, Eve Cody, my landlady, and then there was her son and daughter, Johnny, her son, and Eve, Eve's daughter. And then we lived, so my best friend in football was a lad called Terry Cook, who was also a fellow Brummie, who I'd been playing football with from the age of 10. And we were, again, Brummie lads. He was a Birmingham City fan. We both signed for United. We both played for the same Sunday League team in our last 2 years. And he was a right winger, midfielder. I was a centre midfielder. And we were living with Beckham, who had his own room, and me and Cookie shared a room. And then you look around the dressing room, and then there's a lad called Gary Neville, and then there's Chris Casper, and there's Nicky Butt, there's Paul Scholes, there's John O'Kane, and there's a Robert Savage. So these are the lads who were the year above. So 1992, when I joined July the 1st for the first day of training, this was the dressing room. I had the lads my age, such as David Johnson, and then we had the lads above, who obviously were the ones we had to try and aspire to be getting in the A team for the youth team, getting ahead of them. We had this class of 92, as they're now called. So that was the shoulders, they were the shoulders I was rubbing against when I was fit, because I did have a lot of injuries, but that was the standard, that's become a benchmark for Manchester United.
You mentioned injuries, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but did you ever feel pressure to achieve that? Was it very much, I need to make this as a career I am with? You mentioned Man United being the best of the best in terms of your overview. Did you put pressure on yourself to achieve the ultimate goal of becoming a footballer, or is it something that you've seen and if it happens, it happens? Or
I think once I'd made my mind up that I wanted to be a professional footballer and not an accountant, yes, there was pressure. And I'd had these standards that I'd set, as a goal-scoring midfielder. I could play right wing, centre forward, could play at the back, I took free kicks, I could dribble past players. My two idols were Brian Robson and John Barnes, and I saw myself as a blend of them. I had the skills of John Barnes, I thought to myself, and I had the bravery, the goal scoring, the engine of Brian Robson, ball winning. So I could do everything, and lots of people told me this anyway. And on reflection, or my Sunday League coach, who I still speak to, my PE teacher at secondary school, I still speak to, they all said that I had everything I needed to be a great player. And you don't realise at the time, I didn't realise how good I was at the time. I knew I could play football, but at the time then you're put into a dressing room with the others, you're scrapping. Yeah. You're all scrapping against each other. The best player in Wales was also centre midfielder. So myself and Gary Twynham. The best player in Manchester was Michael Appleton, who's now manager of Blackpool, and my best friend, one of my best friends. So again, he was centre midfield. There's only two spots in centre midfield at Manchester United in the 4-4-2. So myself, Gary Twynham, Michael Appleton. Which is it going to be? I had the reputation, but could I then do that at the apprenticeship academy level? So yeah, you become on the battlefield. It's day to day training. Who's the best? Who's the worst on the field? Who's having a nightmare? Who's working on certain skills? You now have Brian Pop Robson, He was a Sunderland legend. He was our B team coach whilst Eric Harrison took the A team and was coaching more with the Beckhams and the Scholeses. And then when we came together, you know, it was Eric Harrison's A team against Pop Robson's B team, and I was in that B team playing against Nicky Butt, Paul Scholes, Robbie Savage in centre midfield, you know, most days in training when we had matches. So yeah, it became sort of serious. Impact injury, was going to score a goal, cross came in, me the keeper, I stretched, and what happened to my right kneecap was that it dislocated, but we didn't know. It was a crack, it dislocated, couldn't play on, went to hospital, got an x-ray, told to rest, swelling was huge. And when you're 14 and you think, okay, all right, got an injury, put some ice on it, and you know, and again didn't play for probably 6 months. Swelling to go down, bit of pain in my knee. I had that at the age of 14. So I actually won my schoolboy contract and my YTS contract as an injured player.
Wow.
And not many people probably know this, my closest friends. I actually sort of got to Manchester United really playing on one leg. This knee has never been the same since. I had to mask it. I could run quickly. I could still tackle. But I did have pain at certain times, and it was a bone injury, which never went away. So that I carried into Manchester United and knew in my mind psychologically. So there was me fighting against, I'm not the player I should be here. I have got this 2-year YTS apprenticeship. And then when we went to do weights in the gym, I was always having to hide. I couldn't, not hide in the gym, but the exercise that we used to do, leg extensions, or sat on a machine and then sort of extending your knee and your leg straight, so the leg extension, and that killed my kneecap. So I knew it wasn't right. So basically, I sort of didn't do the exercise when the coaches were looking, using my good knee. I went as an injured player, and I was an injured player for the 3 years that I was there. I even got a pro contract as an injured player, but I couldn't tell anyone.
Why couldn't you not tell anyone?
Well, I felt if I told someone I wasn't right, that perhaps wouldn't be fixed. I was scared to tell anyone I wasn't right in case they didn't take me on as a YTS. As I got there as a YTS, within 3 months of being there, July, August, September, the same thing happened again in the match. So Jim McGregor, who was the first team physio, for some reason was taking our match. There wasn't the first team game on the day, and in September, I can't remember who we were playing, but my knee cracked again. Not under a challenge. My knee just went one way, my knee went the other. There was a crack. I struggled to play on. I think my mum was watching. I knew something was wrong, and I sort of looked over to the bench a few times. I said, I can't play, can't run. And the physio said, okay, go and have a bath. So he didn't look at me, the physio. And this is the hard line of schoolboy football. First team physio, doesn't know who I am really. Sent me for a bath, didn't look at me. So that knee injury kept me out of training for a year and a half. I didn't play again. So my first year, 16 years old, 3 months in, I didn't actually train again until the end of my YTS contract, probably March, April. I didn't train again. I had 3 knee operations to clear the mess that was sort of debris of cartilage and bits of bone out. Try again, rehab, come back, do lots of straight line running, fine. Couldn't sort of put any pressure on my knee at an angle. So I had this problem then, which was recognised as a knee injury, and every time I came back, oh no, we need to get another operation. Right, let's go again. There's more stuff in it, there's more debris. Okay, 3rd operation, felt better. It wasn't 100%, but it was enough for me to play. But it was still, I had a problem. I was right, I need to start playing here because I'm going to get kicked out. So I went back at the end of my YTS as an 18-year-old into a first-year pro. So Sir Alex was like, right, Richard, you've not trained much, you have this bad injury, we've finally got you sorted, and I'm going to give you a year's professional contract to see what you can do in the year. But I'd lost 18 months versus David Beckham, versus Paul Scholes, versus Nicky Butt, versus Phil Neville, etc. The others. So
you've kind of come out of that injury period for a year and a bit. You've got your 1-year contract, so Alex Ferguson's offered you. You said then that you didn't have the repetition of playing against the class of '92. talk to me about that process. You mentioned psychologically as well. Talk to me about the process of playing pro and how that kind of was dealt with mentally as well as physically.
Well, I lost a lot of minutes, lost a lot of training time, lots of improvement time, let's just say. So my friends, Appleton, Terry Cook, progressing, doing really well. I got to watch Scholes, Beckham, but on a weekly basis in their matches. So I was still learning, but from a distance. I could see the stuff that Paul Scholes was doing. He was sort of dribbling through Liverpool youth teams, through 3 or 4 or 5 players and rounding the goalkeeper and put it in the corner. And this is, you know, we were up there in the physio room on a Saturday morning, banging on the windows. There was some fantastic stuff played. Nicky Butt, David Beckham, Keith Gillespie. They all then started to move forward. So I saw this progression. I thought, all right, it does happen if you're good enough. Gillespie made his debut. Nicky Butt made his debut. Beckham went on loan, came back, made his debut. So I saw all of the progression, but obviously I was stuck to straight line running or just to having treatment on a kneecap, but you can't actually treat a kneecap with, you know, ultrasound. Ultrasound doesn't heal bone. So I had monotonous, right, bit of gel, ultrasound, but couldn't have done much to me, but that's all they could do. It was a weird injury. Maybe they'd, you know, not seen many of these in their past, but yeah, I lost that time. So obviously I'm thinking getting back to fitness and having my year pro, joining the ranks in the reserve team dressing room with some of my friends, the Terry Cooks, the Michael Appletons, etc. So 6 or 7 of us moved up into the dressing room, the others were released. And then we had obviously the guys who were making progress in the reserve team dressing room into the first team, you know, so Peter Schmeichel, Paul Ince, Roy Keane, Andrew Kanchelskis, Paul Parker, Stevie Bruce, Gary Pallister, Dennis Irwin, the list goes on. Andrew Cole joined, Brian McClare, you know, Mark, all these players, Mark Hughes, were there. So okay, that's you know, I got to watch them obviously on a week-to-week basis. So I got to learn again from watching and seeing the great stuff. Paul Ince, again another one of my heroes, as he came to be, and Roy Keane, seeing what they could do in centre midfield, and then training with them on occasions, which was great. So it was training again against the Nevilles, the Scholes, the Beckhams, and then occasionally then you'd be drafted across to go and help out with the first team at the end of a training session. So I might be marking Ryan Giggs or Andrei Kanchelskis, trying to stop them crossing or scoring the goal. Wasn't easy, but I saw the standard. So in that final year I was at United, I'd experienced everything, you know, from man marking Ryan Giggs or Andrei Kanchelskis as a fullback, to playing head to toe against Paul Ince in a reserve team training session, you know, going toe to toe, watching him and Roy Keane play against each other and me trying to keep up with them. So I did get to experience a lot of stuff in that year as a pro, but I was behind. Confidence was down. Basics, you know, controlling a ball, passing, although you work on these things, I just lost confidence. I just didn't have the confidence. And at the same time, I knew my knee wasn't right also. So I was still playing on one leg as I look back and think, I was a pro at Man United playing on one good leg. So still experienced a hell of a lot, but struggled really to make the progress necessary to be as good as my friend Michael Appleton, who was then offered more contracted years in the same position.
How did it end then? So you mentioned the psychological state of playing at elite level and not quite having that confidence. How did it come to a conclusion at Manchester United, and how did it kind of, your career move on? Well,
sort of halfway through the season, you sort of gauge where you are, and you look around the dressing room and you think, okay, Michael Appleton on 1-year contract like myself, Terry Cook, myself, my mate, my roommate, and then you've got the Beckhams and co who are on 4-year contracts, so they're all right. So you've got the Welsh guys, Gary Twynham, the Welsh midfielder. So you sort of gauge where you can know where people's levels are at. I'm playing in 18 matches. I scored a fantastic goal against Everton once, playing in midfield against Paul Scholes. All of those, Paul Scholes and some of the class of '92 were in this team. And bloody hell, Flash, what a great goal. So I knew I could do stuff on the pitch. I just couldn't consistently pull it off. And I suppose halfway through that season in January, it would have been January of probably '95, I had an incident on the training field where they were picking teams, and the reserve team coach at the time was picking teams. You know, we were there, and I got left till last. You know that this feeling as a schoolboy, you don't really left as last because that means you're the worst player. And the reserve team coach called me a name which was quite derogatory, and he called me a spade. You can have the spade. he said to the captain of the one team. And a couple of lads came over to me and says, Flash, that's not right, that, you know, we need to have a word with the gaffer. It was my first incident of racism that I felt from a coach.
Wow.
And for the rest of my January, February, March, April, whatever confidence I didn't have was gone with that incident. And I struggled really with everything to do with training then. I was like, well, if I go to Sir Alex and say that coaches have said you can have the spade referring to me, I'm the one who won't be given the contract. So quite controversial. Yes, affected me. Yes, it's prevalent in current day, and different players, as we know, there are incidences now that are out in the media about this. But that really affected me. So for the rest of my year's contract as a pro, just with this particular coach, just struggled to be on the same pitch as him. And so yeah, I had to deal with it and get over it, because again, I was made to feel like if I did speak out, and I'm telling you, Nicky Butt came up to me, and John O'Kane came up to me and just, Flash, that's not right, you want to have a word. So stars who went on, you know, to become great players for the first team. And so no, just leave it there. And that sort of ruined that training session for me. And then afterwards, I'm like, I had a big weight on my mind. So Sir Alex, dressing room, you know who's up potentially for contracts and not. And I didn't think I'd get one. It was me, Michael Appleton. Same, but I knew I wouldn't get it because Appy was playing reserve team football. He was ahead of me regularly playing reserve team football. So I was happy. I was really happy for Appleton. He is my best mate and was a good friend then. And Sir Alex says, okay, not going to keep you on, Rich, but you know, I'm going to recommend you to go on trial here. We've got Carlisle, we've got Stoke, we've got Lou Macari. I'm going to send you down to sessions for, you know, pre-season with Lou. Macari at Stoke. So I went on different trial matches, went to Crewe, I think.
Crewe were good at the time, yeah?
Crewe were good for young players in development, and United, you know, you have these relationships in football where you have the casted off players, go here, go there. I ended up at Stoke pre-season, July 95 for a week, possibly two. The Sturridges, who are a good footballing family, Simon Sturridge, Daniel Sturridge, played for Derby, were very good strikers. I used to get lifts off of those guys and a few other Brummie people. So I was back home in Birmingham. But Sir Alex broke the news and said, Rich, you've done really well, come back from your injury, you've been hindered. And you sort of know. Yeah. So you walk up the stairs and your name's called, Rich, you're in next. And the lads will come in up and down the stairs, either happy with smiles on their faces or not. You know, Terry Cook went up, you know, got his 2-year contract. Appleton went up, I think, got a 2-year contract. So other people were going up and being casted off. So you sort of knew, you know, the left back, Phil Whittam, he won't be kept on. This player, goalkeepers, they're not going to be kept on. So you sort of had an idea.
Quite ruthless.
It wasn't done in a ruthless way. You know the day's come. The gaffer is in the office upstairs. You guys were sitting down on the benches in reception at the Cliff, and yeah, your heart's going a bit. You obviously want a contract, but if you sort of know by the end of your YTS, or you know by the end of a contract period, which was my pro, you sort of know. So yeah, there's a handful of us in this particular sort of cycle of renewals, and it wasn't done in a bad way. It was done in a way that I sort of half expected, but Sir Alex was, as he was all the time, he was brilliant. You know, yes, as I'd say, he was brilliant all the time. We did overstep the mark on certain occasions as youth team players, going out clubbing, not performing on the pitch, which then we'd get the hairdryer in his office. But essentially, this process was done in a really good way, and nobody would be crying. You'd be disappointed, but again, the club offered to help you. Brian Pop Robson said, listen, we're going to go up here, we're going to go there, and we're going to get people to look at you. I said, I want this lad to look. So, you know, if they thought you didn't have any talent, they'd be like, okay, can't do anything for you. Fortunately for me, Brian Pop Robson, Sir Alex says, no, we're going to try and get you somewhere, because we've got Beckham, Scholes, Ince, Keane. But... Right, okay. I'm not going anywhere there fast, am I? So as a centre midfielder, so essentially realistic about things, and I was like, okay, let's crack on and try and get the career somewhere else. But yeah, I wanted to make it at Man United, but it didn't happen. But I had so many good memories. Yes, there were some really crap ones. The injuries weren't great. The incident with the reserve team coach was horrible. But there were so many good memories. times, title-winning performances from the first team. You would be involved in the celebrations, nights out with the first team at Christmas, etc. That you know, words from certain individuals like Roy Keane, like from Paul Ince, on a one-to-one basis, which were really good. From a Cantona as well. He used to clean his boots at one point. So I experienced a lot more than lads would playing for Lincoln City, or even if I'd have stayed at Aston Villa and signed. You know, I experienced the growth of Manchester United. I saw it firsthand. I trained and played with these players, so that will never leave me.
So you went on trial. So you mentioned Stoke, you mentioned Derby County. So where did you settle?
I ended up at Wolves.
Okay.
So
back into the West Midlands, yeah? Did you relocate back home?
Back home, back to Birmingham, back to the mums, and
Is that Edgbaston?
Edgbaston,
yeah.
Bristol Road. As a young schoolboy, Graham Taylor was the one who wanted me at Aston Villa. He had scouts. We played Walsall. I played a bit of reserve, probably 15-20 minutes for a reserve team, Manchester United, at Walsall against Aston Villa. They saw enough of me there to say, oh, he's fitting well, he's quick. I played as a fullback and Villa beat us, but he was at Wolves. So I got this trial at Wolves and got offered a contract at Wolves there.
So what was that transition like? So you mentioned the elite level at Manchester United. You've gone into Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Yeah.
Big transition.
So
Did
League
you cope
One.
well with that, or
I cope
was
with
there
it,
differences?
but
How
the
was that
difference
experience?
is that you come from Man United, and the verbals and the body language you pick up on the other players is that bloody hell, he's from Man United.
Right.
So
Bit of pressure then.
So they already put you on a pedestal. You come from Man
Yeah.
United, Giggsy and Keane and Ince and Schmeichel and Cantona. So you're on a bit of a pedestal. So, but for me, it was a lower level. So I fitted into it. So psychologically, I was confident.
Right.
So I had all the confidence I'd lost at Man United. Got to Wolves, my trial at Stoke, sort of, oh, am I going to get a contract? A bit worried. Turned Stoke down for a year contract with Lou Macari and went to with Graham Taylor. But yeah, there was a difference. They did have the likes of a Tony Daly, a John DeWolf, an Eric Young, old school centre-half. Robbie Dennison was a Northern Irish international. There were some good first-team players. There was a lad called Dean Richards who was touted to be the next centre-half, you know, the John Stones, let's just say, of modern era. In that previous era, Dean Richards they signed from Bradford, and he was really great. I played well in matches. I think 3 months in, Graham Taylor tried to sell Steve Bull, the record goal scorer for Wolves.
Yeah.
Don't do that. He had to go. Results weren't great on the pitch, but he went before his time, Graham Taylor. But one of the turning points for the fans was when he was touted in pre-season to trying to offload Steve Bull. He had the Don Goodman, who now commentates for Sky, and Ned Kelly, as we call him, David Kelly, who was a really good Irish international strikers. And that sort of soured the fans. So the man who bought me, got me on a free transfer, had gone.
Yeah.
In came Mark McGee. Brand new regime, army-like, you know, sort of quite intimidating. A couple of the people around. There was Colin Lee, who's I think still around football now, and there was this instructor that they brought in who knew nothing about football, but he thought he was good at fitness. He used to bark the orders. So essentially it was like, young lads, there's the first team, we're working with them. You young lads, don't care how good you are. We sort of were casted off to one side, and at the end of that year, I was casted off again. Now, we had some great coaches with us at the reserve team level and the youth team. We integrated. My coach, Ian, was like, really got a good chance. I think you're going to get a contract here, but extension. But it didn't happen. McGee only kept, I think, one player on, a lad called Carl Robinson, who went on to play for Wales internationally. He was a midfielder, Carl. And he was the only one really plucked from our group that was kept on. The rest of us young lads were discarded. So first year pros, most of them were, and then myself, a second year pro, discarded. So, you know, I went to Bradford on an end of season trial, played in a game. We drove up to Bradford, 4 of us in a car, played in a game. I think the manager was Chris Kamara at the time. So again, you mix with these different people, chance meetings with people. So Chris Kamara played for Bradford. The next day on Molineux, we had, and the sun was blazing. It was probably end of April. because they didn't tell us until the last minute to say what they were doing with us as contracts were being given out, and we had a bleep test. So we played 90-minute match, quite brutal 90-minute match for Bradford against somebody in the north. Cuts and bruises all over me. Everybody was in, first team, reserve team, we're on the pitch, spread out across the lines, bleep test, blazing sun. I could drop out here. I've played the bloody game like the night before. The first team haven't, but I didn't. I was one of the last 3 in the bleep test out of 30, 40 players. So I was trying to prove how fit I was. I was a really fit player, great engine, just had a bad knee. But next day, being released.
Spoke to other professional footballers that have had similar situations, but the key term that they use is timing and getting the opportunity to exacerbate who they are. Do you feel like, because of the timing, you mentioned Graham Taylor, do you reckon if he was still there, that the story might have been different, or if the timing was better for you?
I'd have made my first team debut. Yeah,
a different case.
I would have, under Graham Taylor, I would have made my first team debut. Remember the guy, he brought John Barnes into the country. Yeah. He brought Dwight York into English football. He had a really good reputation. Tony Daly excelled under him at Villa. And I was a Villa fan, so I knew all the Villa players. Tony Daly was in the dressing room at the time. Injury prone, unfortunately, but the first team players, we all integrated. It was quite a nice family, because even the first team players felt a little bit of what's going on here with this lot. They're like a bloody army here. They think we need to be doing this, that and the other, training twice as hard and the rest of it. And it didn't work, because Mark McGee eventually got the sack not too long into his managerial career at Wolves. So I was glad when that happened, because of the way he was to all of the lads. All of us lads, we were very talented boys, that you need time. At 19, 20, it's not finished, sort of thing, for lads who have the talent. But Mark McGee just sort of pulled the plug and said, no, away with you. So timing, yes, Graham Taylor would have been great to have had keeping in charge. I went on under him at Watford, following Wolves, so I knew he liked me. So again, a lot of it is who likes you in football. You see managers keep signing the same players, across English football. Like, manager goes here, takes 3 or 4 players with him. So yeah, it's if your face doesn't fit in certain circumstances, then that can go against you. And I felt that in football as well. That if you're not in, for whatever reason, you're not in that crowd. You're maybe this manager has brought along these players and prefers them to the person who signed you, then that's happened as well. Kenny Jackett, joined Watford, playing the reserves, back in centre mid, goal scoring midfielder, confidence is up. Yeah, I've got the knee still, but I'm getting on with it. And Kenny Jackett didn't like me, because I was Graham Taylor's signing. In the background, Graham Taylor let me know that. So I was this fantastic reserve team player, all you could wish for in a reserve team lad, centre mid, goal scoring, wins the ball, playing against players who were dropping into reserve team games from their first teams. Like Nigel Quasi, who was a QPR player playing in the Premier League, dropped down into a game against me in the reserves. I run rings around him, he couldn't take it, and I nearly made him cry. But being hacked down by certain players because of, he's good. Anyway, did well, a lot of good young lads at Watford. Lived at the beginning with a lady who looked after John Barnes. So Annie Nicel, Irish lady, landlady, had all the players, Luther Blissett, John Barnes, all the legends of Watford from the 80s, and all the lads come through. And picture of John Barnes in her kitchen on the wall, picture of Richard Flash signing for Watford. So I'm not worthy here, but thanks, Annie. She looked after me. She was brilliant, Annie. And you imagine my hero, John Barnes. Picture of John, picture of me. No one else on the board, just us two. So she liked me, Annie. And so I was like living in my legend's hero's house, like when he started as a player in England, John Barnes. So had that, but I did great. I just wasn't wanted. I wasn't wanted at the club. Kenny Jackett had been the youth team player, the youth team manager, and had brought some players through the system. And there were these twins called the Johnson twins, Adam and Chris. One was a centre midfielder, my position. he got put into squads. I didn't. I could score, I could do this, I could do that, my name. Every other game I'd be on the scoring charts. You know, if you're midfield and you're playing well, not just scoring goals. Getting on with the coaches and stuff, and again, the guys knew. Graham Taylor and Bobby Downs knew. We can't pick the team. Kenny's in charge. He said, be patient, next season it's going to change. I knew this behind, so I knew Kenny Jackett would be demoted and Graham was going to come and take over the game, because Graham let me know after a reserve team once. He sort of pulled me into the dressing room for a quiet chat and said, listen, you're doing fantastic, but face doesn't fit. Can you do?
Do you think, on that, do you think you've become, in terms of your career journey, as you've mentioned, the victim of the micropolitics within football? Do you feel, because there's so much surrounding the political element within football and the cultural element, do you feel like the situation that you've found yourself in, you're kind of a little bit like, you're a bit of a victim of that because of the issues that are out of your control?
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Damned if you do, damned if you don't. You know, I'm this black lad with dreadlocks. You know, I've been brought in by former England manager. He's signed me twice, so he must see something in me. Former England manager, Aston Villa manager, nearly won the Premiership with Aston Villa. So yeah, I was sort of. It was bewildering. It was off the pitch that it became difficult. Again, the psychological aspect of being a footballer is you can go into training, but then you've got all this time away at home, with your partner or on your own, and all this downtime. It's like, what the fuck's going on here? But even the gaffers told me I should be in the bloody team. The team aren't doing great. We're not going to get promoted, so why not? So at the end of that season, Graham Taylor, what did he do? He took me to Burnley, the last game of the season in League One, away. I was pissed off because I had tickets to go and watch Prince Nazim Hamed in Manchester. It's like, why are you picking me now? I was geared up. The lads from Man United, my best mates, said, well, we're going out in Manchester, but we're going to watch boxing. Nazim Hamed was the biggest thing in boxing at the time. 1996, I think this was. 97, 96, 97. Sub, I made it to the bench this time, as I did a few other times with Kenny Jackett, but he never put me on. Why don't you put me on? We're losing. So put me on when we're 3-0 down. Cheers, gaffer. 3-0 down. What do you want me to do? So I went on. I was getting some stick from Burnley fans because I had dreadlocks, and in Burnley you don't have many people with dreadlocks back in the day. No, nothing racism driven, just taking mick out my hair. And got on. Half an hour, did well, won a few tackles, passed the ball a bit, crossed a few things in. I think we might have got one back at the end. And in the players' lounge afterwards, Burnley fans coming up to me saying, well done, you should have been at the start. So I was hearing all good stuff from all the people who didn't matter. I was getting all the stuff from the lads, There's a lad called Gifton O'Williams who I lived with in my digs there in the first year. And he played first team, 16-year-old. He was a very talented lad, Gifton, and I got to know him really well. And he said to us at the time, we were in some dressing room chat, and he said, "Oh, Gaffer's at the chat with me." He says, "Oh, which out of the young lads here, in the reserve team dressing room, are capable of playing in the Premier League?" And this was from Gifton Noel Williams, who knew me, played with me, played in the first team, and he said, "You picked me out as one of those players. I'm capable." Kenny Flash is capable of playing in the Premier League. So I was getting credit. So again, you don't forget these things. You're like, I'm good enough to play in the Premier League according to Gifton, who did play in the Premier League. The players see talent that maybe coaches see as well, but for whatever political reasons, as you've mentioned, you don't get the chance. And then what happens the following season when the gaffer took charge, Graham Taylor, gets injured. New injury. Spine injury, pelvic injury, sciatic nerve, and the physio. And again, I can point fingers and blame the physio. I got flat feet, big flat feet. I used to have orthotics that Graham Taylor got for me as a player at Wolves. So wear these, Rich, because these will help your ankle injury. So I got these orthotics worn, and then I got the new pair from Wolves, and then I left to go to Watford, and then this pair, they got old and worn after a season, so I stopped wearing them. I went off in pre-season, we went to Lithuania, and I because I weren't wearing them, my back realigned itself. I had this sciatic pain going through the back of me. Like, this isn't good. They were really old and worn these, so I didn't put them back in. And anyway, I tried to play on. I didn't make the first team after pre-season. And Graham said, go, I want to send you on loan to my old club, Lincoln, for a month. I think it might have been month of October. So I went on loan at Lincoln, and I literally couldn't get out of bed in the morning, but I somehow got through 3 weeks and then said, I can't even move. Played some games for Lincoln, home and away. But I literally couldn't get out of bed, really bad back, sciatic nerve pain down the side. And somehow I got these massages, they got me onto the training field, and I'd get off the pitch, and I was literally I had to go to bed. And I wouldn't get up for most of that evening, apart from dinner. So a different injury, physio at Watford, they sent me back to him, and eventually I said to Graham Taylor, I said, the physio here, our physio at Watford, I said I need some new orthotics, he ignored me. But this was at the end of the season when I figured out, right, if I put these back in, let's see what happened. When I put the orthotics back in, which was February, I went to see a Formula 1 specialist for my back. He used to design the seats for McLaren. That's how, Graham Taylor was brilliant. It's go and see him, no expense spared, we need to get you fit. Did all the stuff for my back, it improved, but as soon as I put the old orthotics in, and then I said, I need some new orthotics. Eventually they ordered some for me, but that time had gone again. So I'd gone from October, November, December, January, February, March, back fit again, back on the reserve team field, playing reserve team games. Lewis Bow-Morty for Arsenal was in this one. All sorts of stuff, was playing really well again, scoring goals in the reserves, but ran out of time. And again, when you say timing, Micah Hyde was brought in from Cambridge. There's connections in football. Micah Hyde played in the same Sunday League team as David Beckham. Micah Hyde, really good lad, nice lad, still coaching in the game, and he was ahead of me now. So Graham Taylor, Micah's got his games under his belt, he's done well. We've run out of time. And it was quite weird because so I wrote to Graham, I said, listen, Phil, the physio, ignored me when I said I need some new orthotics. So I took them out. Back problem came. Over months it got worse to the point where it cost me 6 months of that season, October to March. By the time I got back, flying again. But again, you feel at times that you're not looked upon. If you're not in the first team, or physio Man United didn't feel worthy of giving me ice or looking at my knee, this physio at Watford didn't feel I was worthy of getting some new orthotics that cost 200 quid. And they've cost me time in my career, even with this bad right knee that I was still a pro for 7 years on a bad knee that I knew was holding me back anyway. I was still managed to play games, still managed to play first team games, and all this happened, So it was politics of football, the hierarchy. If you're Michael Owen, you'll get treated as a 15-year-old as you are as a first team player. If you're a Richard Flash or any other lad who hasn't got that reputation necessarily with the people involved, whether they're coaches or physios, you'll be looked over.
Do you feel the experiences that you've had have really been transferable into what you do now?
In the context of you have to keep battling and you have to get over the obstacles put in front of you, yes, they're transferable across any discipline, any industry. You're going to get knockbacks. So Manchester United, Wolves, Watford, 3 knockbacks. So yeah, the knockbacks, the incidents of racism in the dressing room, even if it wasn't directed at me, directed at colleagues, friends, Manchester United's youth team dressing room, the Watford dressing room, there's nothing in Wolves at all. A few things going on at Watford, which weren't great. Plymouth was okay. So yeah, a lot of experience that has brought me now as an academic. And post my first degree, I became a business manager for Gold Soccer Centres, so I ran mini football businesses. I brought my industry experience with my then 8 years of running football centres for a PLC, and then my love for academia, reading articles, journal articles, and gaining knowledge in different disciplines. And then fast forward to now, it's even more of a perfect fit with my research, areas of research.
So last question, Rich. If you could go back to your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give?
Well, I would say probably be a little bit more outspoken, as in to if I've got any issues, to tell someone about them. Issue with my knee, my right knee, which I carried into Manchester United. You know, maybe they could have worked on it earlier, but I couldn't tell them before I signed for them because they might say, no, you're not fit, we'll make you get fit, and I might never have been fit. So maybe like once I was in United, maybe sort of to speak quickly about, oh, I've hurt my knee here, and then maybe it wouldn't have dislocated, and maybe I'd have got some attention to it. So yeah, but the different parts of advice, you know, you're going to meet with conflict from other people you work with. Find someone who you can speak to, whether it's at home or whether it's in the office. Try and have a chat with someone if you're not happy about something. But I'm very closed, so not many people I speak to about personal stuff. So that would be something, especially with the way the modern world is, the modern sporting world. There's lots of people now speaking out against things that are, you know, there's lots of injustice going on. There's lots of inequality. And again, this is what now drives my research in racism in football, particularly. So to sort of highlight the impacts of racism in sport, and that incident at Manchester United, the bigger incident, I think is now driving me on in my current career. But yeah, we need to speak to people, don't we?
Absolutely. Richard, thank you so much. Cheers, pal.
No problem.
Thank you.